Hello and welcome back to Bits and Bobs. In today's video I'll be showing you my entire collection of bronze farthings, as I have now completed the entire collection from 1860 all the way along through the different dates right up to 1956, through all the different monarchs and all the different years these farthings were issued. So we'll begin with 1860 and have a look along my whole collection at all the different dates and all the different coins I've collected, filling in every single gap in my collection of these bronze farthings. So let's have a look. And so here we go. Here are my farthings, and we'll begin having a little look at each one with the first one, which is 1860. So here's my 1860. Now this is actually a very nice one, I must say. For the oldest one, you would think it might be the most worn of all of them, as it is done most circulating. But actually this is a very nice coin indeed. And actually, looking under the camera here, zoomed in, it is a really true beauty of a coin. You can see all of the detail to Victoria's hair. And a top tip for collectors looking to collect Victorian coins: Victoria's hair is often the best way to tell the quality, as obviously you can't really tell if it's smooth or not, or how well worn it is on the neck and smooth parts of the coin. So there we go, there's the first one, 1860. So next up is of course 1861. There are very few years that were not minted. There we go, 1861, a bit of a darker toned coin. And again, there is Victoria to the obverse. Here is my 1862, quite a nice one again. A bit darkened. Now these were all chemically darkened by the Royal Mint to avoid confusion with them as half sovereigns. So they were chemically darkened up until 1913 to avoid confusion between half sovereigns. Not just confusion, but also those looking to palm them off as half sovereigns when they're nice and new and shiny without being chemically darkened. Now this one here is a very special one, as 1863 is not the rarest mintage, or rather the lowest mintage. However, many of them the collectors believe are destroyed, melted down or lost, as 1863 is the hardest year to find, even in poor grade, selling for around £50. So this here is the most valuable one you'll see today. Not the best condition perhaps, but it's not bad, but it's definitely the most valuable farthing in my collection due to its immense scarcity. We then move on to 1864. This one's a bit dirty, not the greatest, but overall a pretty nice coin, and of course a nice coin to have as it is a date for the date run. We then have this one. This is 1865, very dark, a bit dirty, and once again the same design of young Victoria, but not bad overall. Continuing along, we have here 1866. That's quite a nice cool date. 1867, that one's not a very nice condition at all, but it is one of the scarcer years again. 1868, 1869, that one's quite nice. Now there are none minted in 1870 or 1871, so the next date is 1872. I'll get a close-up of this one because it is quite bad and hard to see. I will put a picture on screen. Oh, there we go, actually. Now you can see it there. Just about you can see 1872. Very hard to see. Terrible condition coin. Really nasty. I think I will definitely look to upgrade this one, as it isn't very good. But once again, it is one of the harder years to find, one of the scarcer dates and more valuable ones, especially in a higher grade than that. So there's the first row. On to the second row. Where are we? Here we are. We have 1873. 1874 with a little mint mark there, as they were outsourced that year. 1875, again with the H mint mark for Heaton Metalworks in Birmingham. Again 1876, the H mint mark there, outsourced production. Then there's no 1877 minted, so on to 1878. Now the condition here for my collection does pick up a little bit, as they are a bit newer, obviously, so less worn and easier to buy in higher grade. 1879, 1880, that one's a bit cleaned or a bit shined, not the best there. Then we have 1881, 1882, again with a mint mark there. We then have 1883, 1884. I'll get this one out to have a better look because it is a lovely condition. Look at that. That is a true beauty. And there's Victoria in pretty much uncirculated grade. A small scratch to her cheek, which is a bit of a shame. But other than that, really nice, really high grade coin. Then moving on to the third row down, we have 1885, 1886, 1887. Now interestingly, for 1887, this coin, the obverse, features the same portrait, the young head portrait of Queen Victoria. Now the bronze coinage, that is the farthing, halfpenny and penny, the bronze coinage never saw a change to the Jubilee head and had to wait straight to the veiled head, as only the silver and gold coins featured the Jubilee head. We then have the Jack the Ripper farthing there, 1888. Minted in London the same year that he was on his famous murdering spree. There was none minted the year after, in 1889. We then have 1890 there, again lovely condition. 1891, 1892. Now that there, 1892, is actually the lowest minted farthing, so it should be, by the numbers, the hardest one to find and the most valuable, and it is probably the second hardest to find and second most valuable, other than that 1863, which I mentioned is actually the rarest one in terms of how many are found by collectors. We then have 1893, the year that all the silver and gold coins featured the veiled head, but it'd be a longer wait. Even in 1895, if we look here, we can see still Leonard Charles Wyon's bronze head or young head of Queen Victoria for the bronze coinage, and it is worth noting Leonard Charles Wyon designed both sides of this coin, so up to now he had designed both sides of all of these farthings. But finally, in 1896, there was a change. You can see here an update in Britannia. Notice how round her shield is before. Now it's more oval shaped. The date there is smaller than it is on previous ones, but more importantly, or more notably, to the obverse now we have the veiled head of Queen Victoria as designed by Thomas Brock. So there we go, that is 1896, the first year that was introduced. Continuing on, we have the same design there for 1897, 1898, 1899, and the turn of the century farthing, 1900, and then 1901. And 1901, as we know, is the year Victoria passed away, and is the last year, or the final year, that Victoria's portrait features on the farthing. And it featured on farthings since the 1830s, so a long time for Victoria. But there was now a change of monarch here with the 1902 farthing. As we know, that would be King Edward VII. As we can see there, his new portrait adorning that farthing in 1902, the first year he featured on British coins. The same for 1903, 1904, not the best quality 1904 in my personal collection. As we can see there, the date is a bit corroded, but you can still make it out, which is the most important thing. We then have a 1905, 1906, 1907, and then on to the next row down. Zooming back in, here we are, we have 1908, that's quite a nice one, bit of a luster still showing there. 1909, and then 1910, and in 1910, Edward VII died. Looking to the obverse here, we have his portrait for the last time in 1910, as then the 1911 coinage, farthing included, had no reverse design change, but now featured the portrait of King George V by Bertram McKennell to the obverse. It did so in 1912, 1913, 1914, 1915, 1916, 1917, 1918, then on to the penultimate row here. There we are, 1919. There are no mint marks for any of these 1910 dates as with the penny. We then have 1920, still the same design on both sides, 1921, 1922, 1923, so that's the last one that's over 100 years old. And this one here, the 1924, as of recording, is 100 years old. So all of that was over 100 years old of history. Now moving on to 1925, 1926, we can see. Now, I don't know if this is actually a true change, but for me personally, I've always believed there was a change between these 2 years in the milling. I haven't actually researched it, but if you look here, the milling, doesn't come very far into the coin from the border. But this one here, we can see the teeth are much more longer teeth from the border, reaching further into the coin. Comment down below if you do know this was an official change that year. But then continuing on, we have here 1927. Not a rare date if memory serves, so I should be getting a better condition one than that. 1928, 1929, and then the final row, we have there 1930, and now these are all much better condition, although it's a bit dirtier, this exact one. They're all much less worn, as they were, of course, used for much less time in circulation. We then have 1931. These are all lovely, lovely designs, it must be said. 1932, 1933, beautiful coins. I haven't even really touched on the design, how good it is. And, the farthing, of course, a quarter of a penny. 960 of these to a pound, a great little coin for small purchases back in the day. There's 33, of course. Now, zooming in a bit, this is a very exciting image there, but sadly it is a farthing, not a penny from that year. Of course, that would be worth very much more. 34, 35, and then 1936 is the year of 3 kings. So there was an Edward VIII pattern farthing, but that doesn't really count as it was not a circulation farthing. So this year, 36, featured the portrait of King George V. For the very final time, there he is on the obverse, for the last time. And then 1937, we have, 2 new designs for the coin on both sides. So the reverse has now been changed to feature this. This is a penny wren. So perhaps a bit ironic that it's a penny wren on the farthing, but still a lovely design. and has become iconic on the farthing. There we go, 37, and now that features the new portrait of King George VI there on the obverse. Very, very nice. The current King Charles III's grandfather. We then have 1938, the same design, 1939, 1940, the same design, and then the tray ends. But don't worry, the collection does not end, as I've got another tray with even more farthings, as they did run past 1940. So here is my tray for overflow farthings, and I'll tell you why it's not just a random blue tray shared with old pound coins at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that. We then have, carrying on there with the date run, 1941, 1942, 1940. These need a bit of a spin around, to be fair, but we've got 1943 there, 1944, 45, 46, 47. These are even upside down, but I will spin them around later. And then 48, 49, 1950, 1951. Then onto the final row for the video. We have this one here, 1952. Now, to my best knowledge, it isn't actually that rare, so I really do need an upgrade for this in terms of condition. That is not the nicest. But that is the final time on the farthing we will see King George VI, as he did die that year, and his daughter, Queen Elizabeth II, took the throne. There is no change in design to the farthing. We can see here the same penny wren, but looking to the obverse, we have here a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. Now, this is a one-year portrait. If we look, we can see there the wording Brit Om. Now, looking to the next year, which is 1954, the same actual portrait of the Queen herself is used, but we can see the Brit Om has been removed or omitted, and it is now a shorter legend. We then have 1955 and 1956. Now, in 1956, a farthing could not buy much. On screen there is the actual buying power of a farthing. I believe it was something like 2 pence in today's money, or maybe 3 pence in today's money, but you'll see it on screen how much it could buy in today's money, and it was decided to discontinue the farthing. So 56 was the last year the farthing coin was made. There was still legal tender for 4 years afterwards, and then demonetized in 1960. So the true death of the farthing in 1960, so a nice 100 years after the first one we saw of the bronze farthing. But of course the farthing dates back to medieval times. And so there we go, there is my whole collection of farthings, the bronze farthings from 1860 right up until 1956. Now comment down below, how many of the farthings do you have? And do you have the full set as well? Now we'll return to that question I posed to you, why are the other farthings just in an overflow tray, sharing a tray, rather than having a tray of their own? Well, because I'm going to be extending my date run. I'm going to buy a second tray, a red tray to match that other red tray I've got, and sort of move all the farthings back, so that 1956 is the last year on the last tray, and sort of shoot them all back along accordingly. Then from the first year they'll be empty for the first few rows on that tray, I'm going to see how far back the date run will go, and fill it in from there. So not really a standard date, not going to date run from George IV, from George III. I'm going to just get a second tray, and do 2 trays worth of farthings. Obviously I've got from 1860, so anything before 1860 that fits on the first tray will be what I continue to date run, and I'll show you that process and update you along the way for my new extended farthing collection as we go. But for now, today it's all about the bronze farthing. So comment down below, like I say, how many bronze farthings you have, and have you also completed the whole collection. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon for some more coins in the future on Bits and Bobs. Bye for now.